Live from the Business Radio X studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and we are coming to you from the virtual Business Radio X studio. We're not in Renaissance Bank, folks. We're practicing safe distancing directives, but we still love Renaissance Bank, even though we had to temporarily move out. And I want to let you know that the Renaissance Bank folks are working hard on the PPP loans and other emergency disaster loans on behalf of their clients. If you'd like more information on how some of those programs work through the SBA, give them a call, be in touch with your Renaissance banker. You can go to renaissancebank.com, of course, or call them directly. All the branches are open, but they're open by appointment only. And the drive-thrus are open, of course, at any time. But if you want to see your Renaissance banker in person, they're available to you. Just give them a call, set up an appointment, and go see them and get all the latest updates at renaissancebank.com. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now I want to welcome Deborah Schwartz Griffin. Deborah is the president and founder of Creative Connector. Deborah, welcome.
Well, John, it's a pleasure to have you have me on their show.
Well,
Thank you.
It's great to have you. And Creative Connector, tell us a little bit about what you do there.
Well, I have spent my life helping people throughout my career, whether I was in television news and production or television broadcast sales and radio, the hospitality business for the last 16 years, and then today with my company since 2001. So my focus has always been understanding someone's business, having a real good pulse of the value that they bring to their clients and prospective clients and strategic partners, and then crystallizing that, and as their best ambassador, as their connector, rainmaker, and deal maker, connecting them to those people, those decision makers that they need to be in front of. And I always represent the leaders of companies, so the CEO, the C-level, and their teams. But it always starts with that leader and meeting with him or her and understanding, what's their crisis right now, what's their puzzle piece, which is part of my logo. Is I created a puzzle piece because people come to me with a puzzle. It's a dilemma. And there's always several parts to it, which is like a puzzle. But there's always an opening. There's always a reason that they can't do this and they can't do that, or they just don't see the forest for the trees. And so I'm able to look at it holistically. And while I'm doing a needs assessment and asking a lot of questions, and also doing my homework before, I then can slowly but surely get the information that I need to best help them.
Wow, a lot there. I want to unpack that. I mean, that's awesome work, but let's unpack that a little bit. But before we talk about how you got into this. I mean, because you've got a varied background. What led you into this specific business of helping folks connect the way you do?
I grew up in a sales family. My mom was a realtor. My dad was in men's clothing. My brother was a dentist. My sister was in ladies' clothing. And while I was growing up, I would have to overcome objections from my parents when they constantly said no. And just no matter what I wanted to do, there had to be a reason that I had to come up with as to why I should be able to do that. This is when I was younger. And I guess that, that momentum, along with watching television news, I decided I wanted to, be a news reporter and anchor. So I was always inquisitive, and I always asked questions, and I always watched and observed people. And I utilized my youth, and then going to the Ohio State University, majoring in broadcast journalism, to really hone in on what I was good at, what my strengths were. And so I graduated in broadcast journalism, but I did 7 internships. And those 7 internships every spring and summer propelled me into getting my first job 2 months after I graduated from Ohio State. I had impressed the station manager, and he said, well, if you continue the way you are and stay in touch with me for another year before you graduate, we may have an opening for you. And sure enough, he did. And so I would tell you that becoming a creative connector started while I was in college, probably even high school, but I would say in college, how I approached my career, how I looked at it as, okay, I didn't want to, graduate and have to work at a restaurant because I didn't do my due diligence. So I had a roadmap, and I felt that I really needed to work at the commercial stations. And so I did. I worked at 7, 4 in Columbus, 3 in Cleveland, where I grew up. And then I got hired at the number 1 station as a news producer of documentaries. And I co-produced 4 5-part series when I was 21 to 22 and a half, actually, and lived in Cleveland. And one was on Alzheimer's disease. That was the last one. One was on the Hispanics of Cleveland. Another was on nurse midwives and obstetricians. And the first one was on homeless women alone, a new minority. And being able to be a connector when you're in the news business is important because you have to listen, you have to ask the right questions, and then you have to shorten it and then crystallize it and get it out. And so I really believe my ability to be where I am today came from my background in news. And then I've always been a risk taker. And when I left that station in Cleveland, I got hired in Corpus Christi, which I went from the 12th largest market to the 125th largest market. And I was willing to do it to build my brand and to get the experience, most importantly. And so I was hired as a news reporter at the NBC station, KRIS-TV in Corpus Christi. And I was hired as a general assignment education reporter and worked there a year, had the opportunity to anchor as well. But I covered a lot of stories. And during that time, I realized I was in too small of a market and I wanted to go larger. And I interviewed for, again, never had done this, a opportunity to be a producer of a morning talk show on the TV station, the number 1 station in San Antonio. And so I connected the dots and I put together a sample show for the news director. And he loved it and he liked my chutzpah, and he hired me on an independent contractor, 13-week contract. So I moved from Corpus to San Antonio and was hired. I produced 2 pilots. I had a great team, went out in the community and talked about it. And it ended up in 1986 is when satellite news was launched. So they put that on a hiatus. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. And there wasn't a news reporter job. And I was too young still to be a news reporter. And that was a large market. So I ended up, again, connecting the dots. And I went to work for the mayor's office through USAA as a co-producer of a conference for Henry Cisneros, who was mayor at the time. And it was called Future of a Region. And I was 25. I ended up producing it, was on a contract again, and made built unbelievable relationships. And from that, I ended up segueing and going into radio sales. So I left television news and production and went into relationship selling. And that started my career in 1987. And I sold Spanish music for 1 year, country music for a second year, and then oldies music while living in San Antonio. And I realized how much I loved helping people and sticking with them versus going to the next story when you're in news. I really loved, building that rapport, helping them in their business, learning the ins and outs, and selling an intangible. And then I moved here to Atlanta 34 years ago and ended up being hired by WSB-TV. And so I was there for 12 years as the business development specialist, co-op manager. And I took my years of the other stuff, brought it there, and then was trained in co-op advertising and helping small to medium-sized businesses afford TV. by using co-op and so on. And from there, when I left in 2001, I started my company. And at the time, we called it DSG and Associates, the Rainmaker. And I carried a rain stick with me. And I used the rain stick, I still have, to make sure that I had that metaphor of, you can, in tribal days, the tribesmen would shake the stick to make it rain. And, you can do it in business. And so in 2001, I started my company and I brought on clients that were my clients from SB. And then I eventually penetrated several markets, industries, and one of them was restaurants and hospitality. And so that's when I was hired by the Georgia Restaurant Association, started as an IC, and then became a full-time director of membership and then vice president of membership and sponsorships. And I stayed in this business now for 16 years. I went from there to Atlanta Fixture as director of national accounts, helping restaurants and multi-unit chains. And then I went to work for the Women's Food Service Forum and leadership development. And then from there is when I reconnected with Jeff, with the BCN, and I brought on Creative Approach, and a client that has been in Savannah about 15 or 16 years, opened their first store in Atlanta in 2015. So it's been 5 years, brought them on. And then from there is when I brought on another client, Trusted CFO Solutions, Steve Gross and Dixie McCurley, and helped them grow their business and actually connected them to Creative Approach. And so the connections that I've made in my career have been looking at things holistically and understanding, again, someone's business, but not just their business, but let's say I'm connecting them to someone. So let's just say Creative Approach moves to Atlanta, never been here, doesn't have any presence, but is very well known in Savannah. And we met at the Chamber of Commerce, and Cale Hall said, heard me speak, and he said, we need the creative connector. And he said, I'm going to go to your website and I'm going to call you tomorrow. And sure enough, he did. And we met and we sat down and brainstormed. And I said, well, do you have an attorney? Do you have an accountant? Do you have a banker here? And he said, no, no, and no. And so the first thing I did to show him what I could do was I found those people. And one of them happened to be Trusted CFO Solutions, who's been their outsourced finance and operations company now for 3 or 4 years. But so I helped them with that, and then they hired me. And then I worked with them for a year to build their presence and to help generate revenue, create deals, but also to have a leadership presence in Atlanta, since they were such a leader in Savannah. And so I introduced them to the Metro Atlanta Chamber while Hala has been there. And so Cale became a board member. I guess it's now been 5 years. So that's an example of taking, my strengths, helping a client, understanding what their strengths are, and then connecting the dots. So,
folks, if you just joined us, we're speaking with Deborah Schwartz Griffin, and she is the president, founder of Creative Connector. So, Deborah, one of the things that came out of what you just said for me was being in the news business, telling stories. Your passion, your background is really about helping people understand what their story is and to tell it better than they've been telling it up until now.
Well, that's one, but the other is I'm purely hired because people need results. They don't know how to do their own business development. They don't know how to be networkers. They don't know how to bring on direct clients or strategic partners necessarily. Some do, and it's natural. Some don't, because they never had to. If they were running a large company or even a medium size and someone else was doing it, they never needed to do it, or they don't have time, or they need the best of the best. They need someone that they can say, Deborah, you have an amazing network. You know everybody in almost every industry. And for us, this is who our ideal client is. This is our value of our business. This is the best referral for me. This is the best referral partner for me. Can you help me get in front of those people and what do you charge, and how long do you have? And that's really what I'm hired at. The other stuff is part of it, but at the end of the day, I'm paid on a retainer plus commission to generate and deliver results.
Gotcha.
And so I try to do that in as nice of a way as possible by helping and serving the client that hires me, but also the people that I am introducing them to. And that expands their network. It also expands my network.
Sure. Now, talk about the types of firms that you work with. It sounds like you mentioned trusted CFO. It sounds like professional services is clearly one of those. Give some detail on the type of clients you work with.
Well, I'm working with Jeff Chernoff. Jeff is the founder and president of the BCN, the Business Community Network. He founded the Consumer's Choice Award, which is an annual award that recognizes excellence in customer service, and was actually created 30 years ago in Montreal, Canada, while Jeff was a veterinarian there, and he was actually voted and got the most votes and won in his category of veterinary, both retail and medical. And from that, he had such a good experience, he retired, or he sold his business and decided to, with his wife, Ann Ross, to approach the founders about taking that to the States. And so it was 21 years ago when he brought the Consumer's Choice Award to Columbus, Ohio, and then it's been in Atlanta 19 years, and Dallas for 10, and Cincinnati for 3. And so the idea is recognizing B2B and B2C companies who go above and beyond in customer service. And so we met in 2001 through Trusted CFO Solutions, through Steve Gross. Amazingly enough, again, is connecting the dots. And then I didn't hear from Jeff for 16 years, and he linked me in, and the power of LinkedIn. And then he said, Deborah, I've got an opportunity. I can't find anyone to help me. And so the four of us met, my spouse, his spouse, and then he became my client 4 years ago, and we took his idea of the BCN, the Business Community Network, a monthly networking organization, and we brought it to life to add all the member benefits, the value, and so on. So he is one of my clients. I'm the executive vice president and actually co-lead and run the organization with Jeff. We have some excellent co-workers with us that Fred Broder, Buddy Wolford, Glenda Broder, that really make it possible for us to have, knock on wood, a very unique organization that's based on warm referrals and building strategic partnerships and alliances, professional development, bringing in keynote speakers that are business leaders, just like our members. And then we created an ambassador advocate mentoring program so that we intentionally connect our members to each other and help them realize who would be a direct client or a partner or a service that they might need. Another client of mine is Join Inc. Join is a behavioral wealth management company. They focus on the inside out of a person. They believe that money is only a tool, and that living a joyful life is the most important thing. And so the combination of the science of behavior with then helping their clients plan for the future. The qualitative and the quantitative. And so I'm their connector, rainmaker, and deal maker, and they're a BCN member that I brought on, and they saw me in action in the BCN and approached me about being their connector, rainmaker, and deal maker. Another client of mine, Trusted CFO Solutions, is an outsourced finance and operations company, and specifically focused on helping a small to medium-sized business understand the meaning behind their financials and understanding how to build their business and take it to the next level through the right accounting platform and the right understanding of running their business.
Mm-hmm.
And then creative approach is print, graphic design, social media, and I still help them through the BCN in their business. And then I have to say, John, that the BCN members, we call them our clients. So if you look at 100 companies that are members, I probably take care of at least 50 plus of those as my member client. And I do a monthly pipeline meeting with them. So they get Deborah as the creative connector at no charge. And I meet with them monthly and I help them, again, through the BCN, identify their best prospect and strategic partner. And I do that for 1 hour where we call people and then I create a pipeline for them, a Word doc. So that's what I'm doing. I would say that's the value that I bring on a daily basis.
Okay, I'm going to have to stop and rest here for just a second because you've made me tired just listening to all this stuff you do, Deborah, to help people. This is awesome. No, seriously, talk about how you have success as a rainmaker. I mean, it's one thing to connect. That's the obvious first part of what you have to do to make the rain, as it were. But how do you take that connection and turn that into rain for clients?
Well, I'll give an example. The memberships that we bring on in the BCN on a monthly basis, that is because I have uncovered and found the best client member for the BCN, where we look at the value that company brings, who's their ideal client, their best referral partner, and we align that information to how the BCN can help them. So I've brought on, I would say, 50 to 60 members in the BCN, if not more, over the course of the 3 years that the BCN has been in existence, and the company membership. So that's the result that I brought Jeff. Jeff hired me to grow the membership, both in new members and renewals. So I have to do that on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, in order for us to build the organization and then to sustain that and to have renewals. That's why we created the ambassador program. So if you want an example, when I generate results for a member, let's take Nakado Japanese Restaurant, a recent one. They joined in February. Sashi, the owner, identified 3 service companies on our member list, and she needed to replace her railroad ties that were 30 years old. And she identified 4 of our members. We then narrowed it down to the 2 that we thought could do it. And then I said to those 2 members, I'd like you to meet Sashi and warm it up and not just email her the proposal, because she's a very friendly person, warm, family business for 48 years. They're on Cheshire Bridge, Nakano Japanese Restaurant. So I I talked with Oasis Landscapes and Irrigation and Gibbs Landscaping. And so they both went out first and scoped it out, went to look at the project, and then they came back and put a proposal together. And then I met with Kevin Paulin, the owner and founder of Oasis, and with Sashi, and we met together. And he shared what they do, their value. He walked them through everything, and I helped ask questions and helped Sashi get to know him, and vice versa. And then we also had dinner as a couple, both couples, and so. And I did that to some degree with Gibbs. I met with Gibbs' vice president, Peter, and his landscape architect, met them with Sashi, again, so that we had an apples to apples scenario. And at the end of the day, Sashi hired Oasis. And Oasis gained X amount of dollars from that project that they never would have had if I had not helped them. So does that answer your question?
Yes. So
that would be one example.
Right.
Give you several others. I I would say another one would be Ameriprise Financial, Peter Weinbaum. He was looking to find a client, a member or outside of the BCN through me that he could help. And his area of focus is budget planning, divorce planning, setting up 401ks, insurance, small business retirement plans. And I knew that my hairstylist was not happy with her current advisor. And he was not helping her with budgeting and really not taking the complex and making it simple. And Peter does that really well. So I introduced them, and over a short period of time, they hired him. And that was, again, helping a BCN member generate revenue.
It doesn't get any better than that, than putting money on the bottom line for the folks in your network, right?
Yes. Now, outside of that, of course, if you take Trusted CFO Solutions, because I've been in the restaurant hospitality business for 16 years, when Steve and Dixie McCurley, the co-founders, Steve's the CEO, Dixie's the president, they hired me because of my network and who I knew in the restaurant business, having worked in it. And that was one of their first industries that they wanted to focus on. And over the course of the 4 to 5 years that I've worked with them, I've helped them bring on Nikado, Lead Hospitality Group, Stars and Strikes Family Entertainment Centers, Affairs to Remember Caterers, another restaurant group called Big Sky, and then a large chain out of California that has multiple brands called Denko. And I did all of that by starting out with making Trusted CFO relevant. So if you take someone a company that no one ever knows, and maybe they're happy with their accounting finance company, so you're taking them from a seedling, making them relevant to a restaurant or whoever it might be. And that's one of the things I do is, if I'm hired to generate new revenue and no one's ever heard of a company, I am telling their story and making them relevant to that prospective client for them. And so that's what I do. And by doing that and then following it through and then sitting in those meetings, presenting the client, doing the needs assessment, helping do the proposal and closing the deal, that is what I do. It's being seamless within my client's business. And so, that's what I did, for Trusted CFO Solutions. And now I help them through the BCN because they're a BCN member.
Awesome. Deborah Schwartz Griffin. Deborah, this has been great. Lots of value that you lay out for folks and, that you have shared with here. So congratulations on that success. For those that would like more information, would like to be in touch with you, tell them how to do that.
Well, John, thank you. And thank you very much for having me on the show.
Sure.
I say you're a doll, so take that the right way.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
But the best way to connect with me is a few ways. One is my LinkedIn, and it's Deborah Schwartz Griffin. The other would be my LinkedIn company profile, and that's Creative Connector. So putting in Creative Connector. Then next would be my Facebook personal page and company page. Next would be through my number. Probably. I don't know if giving a phone number would be the best or not, John. Is that
yeah, sure. Whatever you wish. A phone number, email, whatever works for you.
Deborah at creativeconnector.com.
Okay.
Deborah at creativeconnector.com. And then also my direct line is 404-630-5535. And then the BCN, my email there is Deborah SG for Schwartz Griffin, Deborah SG at bcnetwork.biz. And then my website is creativeconnector.com. I will be launching a new website and adding a blog and some of my thought leadership and doing some talks, taking what I know and believe in every day and helping others in my talks so that they could be a creative connector and they can have success like I bring.
Great work. Deborah Schwartz Griffin, thanks for being on the show with us.
Thank you very much, John.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
So, folks, just a reminder, you can listen to this show every we do the shows normally on Tuesday mornings live at 11:30, but we throw in special shows when we can get great guests like Deborah. But in any case, if you miss any of our live shows, you can find us on Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Cast. Do you get the picture here? We're on your favorite podcast app, whatever that is. I have yet to be stumped, folks, on any podcast app we're not on. So check us out on any of those, but also NorthFultonBusinessRadio.com is where you can find all our shows. We're up to 215 shows we've done over the last 4 years, and featuring business leaders like Deborah on those shows and in our archive there. So check that out. And we're also, of course, on social media, North Fulton BRX, on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, all three of those platforms. So for my guest, Deborah Schwartz Griffin, I'm John Ray. Join me next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.